The people are real. The verdicts are final. The ghosts are past all. This is Ghost Court with the Honorable me, Shaan. You might remember my first plaintiffs today. Brenda the Captainy from just infamy and from her time here in the spirit world. Today, in a ghost world and ghost court exclusive, we have multiple humans suing each other. Here in the court today, who do I have before me? Defendant, Ms. the Captainy.
Hi, how you... Is that you?
Of course.
Shaan Gee?
Yes, how are you doing?
You're on the Shaan Gee show?
Well, of course.
You still doing this, huh? You look nice.
Oh, well, thank you. It comes with, I judge all moral and, spiritual implications in the spirit world and interpret all ghost law, but yeah, I also do this... Are you gonna give me my
husband back, Shaan?
I also do this little show.
Can you give me my husband back?
I did give you your husband back.
Well,
right now, that is a matter to be determined, yes, and, let me introduce the plaintiff. Who are you today, sir?
How are you doing, Mr. Shaan Gee? It's me, Javier.
I'm doing quite well. Nice to meet you, young man. I appreciate that you decided to put on a suit today.
Of course.
It was very,
My father always told me, if you don't put on a suit, no one is ever going to take you seriously. You should know that as a minority too, Shaan.
I do understand that as a minority, honestly, I'm going to probably be favoring in your side, but as a judge, I must be impartial.
What the fuck, Shaan?
As a judge, I must be impartial.
You can't say shit like that!
I know, but unfortunately,
After all we've been through, you give me my husband back just so this fucking...
Well, Mrs. de Captainy, if you
yeah.
This man...
Why were you pretending to talk like that? You were born in America!
Everybody, I will have order in the courtroom. Now, it might be a few years later, but I will have order in the courtroom. I am still going to...
Mr. Shaan, I just want to say that I was born in Honduras.
I'm glad.
Oh, get off with that load of shit. You were born in Santa Fe.
Regardless of wherever the plaintiff was, we are going to proceed with the truth in this case. Now, it is up to me to determine, it is my determination that the plaintiff is alleging that the defendant did not care properly for one former Congressman, R.T.
Is there a law saying you have to care for someone?
Of course. Just what? The natural, law of...
Physical law?
Yes. Well, I couldn't
Can you cite it, Judge?
Not necessarily off the top of my head, but if I were to call child or adult protective services, they would certainly take your husband away, like Mr. Javier has done.
He's not a child. He's a grown man.
I meant to say adult protective services.
There's no such thing.
Yes, there is.
Since when?
Always. There really is. Yes. It's mostly used for senior citizens, but... Of course, your husband is
soup. He's
exactly.
Now considered a senior
well, he's
citizen.
Considered a special needs citizen, sir.
Why'd you give him to me special needs?
Well, he will have to earn his brains back
so
through...
you give me a special needs fucking idiot.
You're lucky that he even came back at all. He was a very successful underworld congressman. You're very lucky that I even let him come back to you at all. That is going to have to be up to your determination and your worth on Earth to try to get that back
to I don't appreciate you talking about Artie like that. Ever since me and Artie got together, I think we've sort of developed a connection. Ain't that right, Artie? He's my man. And you know what? Though he can't say it, I think he loves me, unlike you. Fuck you, Javier.
Order in the courtrum. We will not have these sort of outbursts, Mr. Captainy. We will not have these...
Is this true, Artie? Do you love him?
Mr. de Captainy, please answer the question.
What's that mean?
Well, that is up for you to determine.
I think he said yes.
We will... Mr. de Captainy, did you mean yes?
That's his word for no.
Well, we will determine that at a later time. Now, Mrs. de Captainy, there is a charge here that your husband's ass was covered in multiple diaper and rash sores from where you did not
ever change
His ass is
him.
always like that. He likes wearing diapers. It's a fetish for him.
Do you have any written evidence or did you provide any documentation
videos.
for that?
Yes, I have videos that we took together.
And have you submitted them to the bailiffs?
Look it up right now.
Oh, I'm not. Well, you have to submit them to the court as evidence, or else this would be one side for Mr. Javier.
What? Go to who? Nobody approached me.
Well, that was your decision when you did not hire a lawyer to represent yourself today.
Javier doesn't have a lawyer.
Well, Javier.
I went to law school.
Now, did you know that, Mrs. de Caplane?
No. You went to law school? Javier?
That's one for the minorities.
You never told me you went to law school. Artie, I've been telling you to go to law school forever. It's amazing you're a congressman and never been to law school. Javier. Okay.
Now, Mrs. de Caplane, how do you answer to this charge about the first diaper rashes?
I'm pleading. Do I have to plead?
Sure.
I plead not guilty because Artie loves that kind of shit.
Okay. Now, Javier, how do you answer to those charges?
Brenda, I know you're into a lot of fucked up shit like that, but like you raised Artie and you raised him to like bedsores, so I mean, even if he likes it, it's inhumane. Oh, fuck you.
On this first verdict, this first charge, I rule in favor of Mr. Javier. Now,
This court's a fucking joke.
order in the courtroom. We will not have these sort of
Fuck you,
outbursts.
Shaan
We will
King.
not have these sorts of outbursts. I will absolutely.
You've known my husband for so long. How do you not know? Like, do you ever see his pants? They're always really stuffy.
I've never noticed your husband to wear a diaper before, but if you say he does, I will believe you. However, it is your responsibility. It is your responsibility as a caregiver to ensure that he does not get any diaper rashes.
This gardener tells you one thing and you side with him just because he's what? He's not from Honduras either.
He is a law-educated gardener.
He never told me that.
Now,
Judge, can I please say something?
Yes, right. Go
So
right
you're gonna
ahead.
let him talk, but you're not gonna let me. Brenda, I want my turn.
Yes, please, Mrs. de Caplane. I will allow it.
Mr. Shangi, are you a fan of Danny Trejo?
Of course, with all my heart. Who could not be a fan of Machete?
He's my cousin.
You're joking.
No.
Well,
You think you want to meet him? Because I think he might be home. I mean, I could FaceTime you after this.
yeah, I would love to. I'd love to meet him. Does he do?
What's going on here?
Does he have any tacos? No, he makes tacos. I'm not trying to be racist.
Oh, I know you're not. No, you're not offending me. That'd just be like me asking you if your brother made curry.
Yeah, well, he does. My brother Raj owns a very successful curry business. Raj's
Does
Curry.
he?
You ever heard of Raj's Curry?
No, I'm sorry.
Well, when you pass on and you come to the ghost world,
only in the ghost
it's
world?
only in the ghost world, but you know some
didn't
people
know
have
they
seen
had
it. But
food down
yeah,
there.
in the ghost world, when you pass on, come
Is
eat at
food-
Raj's Curry.
is food
3 for
always
1,
for-
free for you.
Is it only for comfort? Free for me.
free for you if you'll be my friend today. Here.
This is unbelievable.
Anyway, back to the point. Matt, you're right.
Shangi,
Correct.
I want to appeal.
No, well, you can't
Supreme
appeal until
Ghost
we're
Court.
done. There's
Take
no-
me to the Supreme Ghost Court.
You would have to appeal each individual case. We have 3 more cases against you right now, okay?
I appeal the first.
Number 2. Now, Mr. Javier, please explain the second case that you're bringing against Mrs. de Caplane today.
Now, Mr. Shaan, are you aware of anything that's happening outside of the spirit world?
Only semi-omnisciently.
Do you know how successful Brenda is?
No, we do not get any
Do
sort
you
of...
know how successful that this book she wrote for Marty has been, telling all the secrets of the spirit world, which I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to let get out.
Well, of course not. She's written a book about... What?
She wrote a book about everything, man. Everything about Latricia.
And told it to the real world about how the God's not real?
She told everybody.
Lucifer
Holmes,
is dead and never...
She told everybody. And she's
Mrs. de Caplane,
she hasn't even got a brain for Artie.
with all that money,
This
Mrs. de
This
Caplane...
is not true.
What, Mrs. de Caplane, how do you defend yourself? Because from my eyes, you
I wasn't
can't
allowed
believe
to write
it.
the book either.
Well, only if you call it fiction, because otherwise, if everybody gets down here and they believe it, then
Doesn't call it
there's
fiction. He says this is a real life true story, and my zombie husband is
there
the proof.
is there absolute anarchy?
No,
There's no anarchy.
not as far as I can tell.
Well, then as long as it's doing great as long as there is no harm,
Thank you.
we will be all right with the publishing of the story.
What the fuck?
Because I'm sure enough people will believe that the story is not true, because there are so many people who are religious who are so firmly in their beliefs that they will believe any
I
hogwash.
have a zombie husband as proof.
Now that is true.
That has made me over $3 billion last year.
$3 billion, Mrs. DeCaplini, and with all that money, you couldn't invest in your husband's brains?
Didn't even bother. You know what she bought instead? A grill set.
A grill set.
That's all I've seen her buy with it. I don't know what she's doing with it.
Mrs. DeCaplini, how do you answer to this charge?
What does it matter what I buy?
Why would you not give... You are so busy complaining about how bad your husband is now that he has brain soup, and part of the reason for him returning was for you to turn him back into normal, non-brain soup brain. So how do you answer?
I'm trying my best.
What did you spend the money on? A grill set, and what else?
Nothing.
What are you doing with the money, Mrs. DeCaplini?
Nothing. It's in a super PAC.
You put your money in a super PAC. For what?
I'm running for president.
Mrs. DeCaplini, you are running for president?
I'm running for president.
Against... In what party?
My own?
In what? And have you qualified to appear on the ballot in any states?
No, I'm a write-in.
You're a write-in candidate. All right, Mrs. DeCaplini, you have funneled $3 billion
It's all in,
into
it's
your
all
own
in
private...
YouTube ads and Spotify ads. It's all on it.
Want a break from the ads? If you tap now to watch a short video, you'll receive 30 minutes of ad-free music.
Hi, I'm Brenda DeCaplini, and I'm running for president in 2020 against stupid retard Joe Biden and orange monkey Donald Trump. I am a write-in candidate, and I have the truth about the afterlife, and I will give it to you. If you vote for me, write me in your ballot, and don't check off Joe Biden or Donald J. Trump. I will not let you down, and you will go to heaven.
Now enjoy 30 minutes of ad-free listening. On the second verdict, I rule in favor of Mr. Javier.
What the? I thought you were gonna vote for me!
I'm sorry, Mrs. DeCaplini, but your husband
Thank you,
deserves
Shaan.
to use the money from his book and his story towards his own health and recovery.
Does this mean I get like best 2 out of 3?
Well,
Can we
just,
just not
there's
do
a
the
few.
last
Well,
one? Like,
we also
You
have
gotta
to.
do it all.
Yes,
Shaan.
exactly.
I'm
We're
gonna
gonna hear
appeal
it all.
Every single last one of these, so don't think you did anything by doing this. You didn't do shit. I'm gonna be the fucking president. You see the polls lately?
Now, Mrs. DeCaplini, you have.
you're ranked in 7th somehow. I don't even know that. I don't even know 5 of them.
In order in the court, please. Politics aside.
Brings up my fucking ratings during court.
I know, politics aside.
Tacky.
Now, Mrs. DeCaplini, I understand that you have also filed a case against Mr. Javier.
Yes, I have.
I would like you to please present it now.
Honorable Shaan Gee,
Yes.
you know it is a biblical sin for gluttony.
Sure.
I have watched on several occasions
Sure.
Javier eat a whole box of ice cream sandwiches.
Okay.
That's gluttony. That's a deadly sin. Now, can you get rid of them?
No, unfortunately, Mrs. DeCaplini, there's nothing I can do about him eating too many ice cream sandwiches unless it
gluttony.
relates. Does it relate to his care or his ability to care for your husband?
I thought I was just countersuing him for something else. I guess I didn't do the right thing.
Well, we will go with it. Mr. Javier, how do you respond to the accusation of gluttony?
Brenda, do you know how many times I sat there and watched you eat all of my Taco Bell and you ate all my KFC every time we went out and got food? You ate it all? Brenda, you gained 50 pounds since we've been together. I no longer even find you attractive. Not only am I not in love with you anymore, and I'm in love with your son and husband, I don't even, look at you.
Mrs. DeCaplini, how do you respond of the sin of gluttony?
I don't, Shaan. just whatever. He can have Artie. I don't want him.
Mrs. DeCaplini, are you forfeiting in this court, or are you giving up?
I plead guilty
You plead guilty to the sin of gluttony?
to all of it.
Oh.
I just want to go back to Earth.
Well, Mrs. DeCaplini, I'm sorry that it appears your spirit has been broken, but
What?
your spirit inside, your demeanor has been broken. Not literally, your ghost. Not
Okay,
literally
that
your
makes-
ghost.
Okay.
But, Mrs. DeCaplini, I want you to know, after we return from a brief commercial break, we are going to hear from your husband thanks to the gift of, well, my omniscient ghost spirit.
You've always been very omniscient, Shaan. Thank you.
Thank you.
He's wild.
Whoa!
He's wacky.
Wait, so you knew Vincent Van Gogh?
He's moving to Thursday night?
Huh?
That's right. Catch Master Trace on his new night, Thursdays on Ghost NBC.
Don't forget it.
And we're back for a final case against Mrs. DeCaplini, and Mr. Javier. We are going to hear from the witness himself, Mr. R.T. DeCaplini, former congressman and former second Circle of Hell congressman as well. Please, somebody, Mr. Javier, please roll Mr. DeCaplini to the stand.
Yeah, come on, lovely. My Mr. Lovely Bones, come here.
Please raise his right hand.
Okay.
And, well, we're just going to put his hand on this Bible and pretend that he's swearing an oath. Blah, blah, blah.
Gordy.
He's saying the oath. He agrees not to lie. Blah, blah, blah. All right, and now using my omniscient ghost powers, he is going to have momentary time to speak to us. Now, Mr. DeCaplini, before we get started, I just want to say thank you for your time as a second Circle of Hell congressman.
This is very much,
Artie!
yeah, hello. This is very much my honor to serve you and be congressman down here and fulfill a dream. It occurred to me when I returned back to Earth that I actually was elected to Congress. I kind of forgot about that. And for some reason, I was no longer in Congress, and it's a whole wild story. I forgot. I thought I never got elected, but whatever.
Thank you, Mr. DeCaplini.
Hold on, you don't remember winning?
Yeah, there might be some brain function and short-term memory loss until his brain is fully restored to its original
do you
state.
remember me?
You may answer, Mr. DeCaplini.
Yes, I remember you, Brenda. I love you, and I just want to say that I'm honestly a little disappointed in the way that you treated me over the last few months. You knew before I came
what are you
that
saying?
you knew before I came back to this body that I was going to be a lot of work, and you agreed to let me come here, and then you have another relationship.
You talked me into letting you take this body again. I wanted you to take somebody else. Like, why couldn't you have, I don't know, like, James Cameron. He's successful.
It wasn't enough. Shaan wouldn't let me. He only let me have back my old body.
Well, Shaan, this is all your fault, Shaan.
It is all Shaan fault. There's no doubt about
Artie,
that.
you want to file a lawsuit against Shaan?
Yeah, that's going to be a separate lawsuit that I filed with Mr. Javier.
What?
Brenda.
I told you, Brenda.
Brenda.
He wants to be with me.
I
I'm so happy you're finally here.
I love you. I love you, Javier. And I never would have imagined coming back to this life, especially hearing from how I heard about you. I never would have thought that I ever would have had feelings for you, Javier, but you've taken better care of me than my mother/wife ever
You telling
has.
me my son's a faggot?
We're in the courtroom now. Mrs. DeCaplini, we will not have any words like that used towards the beautiful act of love that is happening in front of us just because it does
you're
not
a
involve
faggot
you.
sympathizer.
Now, Mrs. DeCaplini, order in this courtroom now. You have just heard it from your husband yourself. The care that you took of your husband was so poor and in such a poor excuse.
Well, if I'm such a bad person, put me in fucking ghost jail.
I'm going to do just that. In fact, you are sentenced to 1 year maximum security ghost prison. Bailiffs, get her.
No, get the fuck off me!
Get her, bailiffs.
Get Artie, help me!
Artie, Mr. DeCaprini, from now on, your
touch me!
omniscient ghost presence will be gone. You will
Get
return.
fucking help me, Artie! I'm
Get
gonna
her
die
order in
there.
the courtroom. Get her out of here. Thank you, bailiffs. Tune in next Friday for another episode of Ghost Court, right after the brand new episode of Master Trace Hour on its new night, Thursday night. Thank you. Breaking news, folks. This just turned into a top 9 best people, I guess, sort of, that we favorite people.
I'm
top
calling
9
it top 9 people we went to school with.
top 9 people we went to school with.
We left when we made these lists. We both made individual lists, and when we made it, we wanted it to be ambiguous as possible. Like, what defines top 9? You know,
Right.
There's no criteria for it, so all of these we're assuming are going to be completely fucking just random.
Right. I think even right from the get-go, it is absolutely random. This podcast originated on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/AustinZach00. Well, let's get started. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I think you should go first, because I'm kind of still in the process of
Organizing them.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I'll start with number 9. I think it's going to be really out of left field. DJ Klein.
What? DJ Klein,
Yeah.
like the serial killer
Yeah,
guy?
exactly. Yeah, do you
Like
remember?
top
Of course.
10 scariest?
Yeah, well, he's just, listen,
Deadly?
that's right. So I put a little note next to everybody
Me too,
about
yeah.
why I included them on the list. And for DJ Klein at number 9, it's Hit List. Now,
That was legendary,
yeah,
you're
this-
right.
this
That makes
kid-
perfect sense.
This kid had a fucking hit list of people that he was going to kill.
Do you know anybody who was on the list?
No, I can't remember. I'm sure I
don't
did
even
at the
remember
time.
who was on the list.
I'm sure I did at the time, but I mean, he would.
It
he
put
would
him down.
always.
He lived in infamy for the rest of his high school career.
He was
for that.
very, very terrifying for that. He
And-
would run through the halls, and he was just absolutely terrifying
He was,
for
and
that.
he had a friend, didn't he? What was that kid's name who he was friends with? He like kind of looked down. And was like,
Aaron Samuels.
No, I don't think that's it.
Which one?
It could have been.
I'm thinking because Aaron Samuels is Chocolate Sundaes. You remember that kid?
No, it wasn't
okay.
him. It was a kid in his grade, because Chocolate Sundaes was a grade below us.
Yeah.
I don't remember the young man's name.
I don't
It doesn't-
remember.
He had like a little friend who I thought was like they were masterminding shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good pick
Yeah.
for
He's my number 9.
my number 9. Timmy Tabor.
Oh my God! Yeah.
That kid was cool
Yeah.
as fuck.
That kid was.
He was the coolest
definition
fucking
of cool.
kid when he came to our school, like third grade. I remember seeing that kid and going, "Whoa!"
You
And
sat
he stayed
forward,
cool.
and he was hot.
He was hot as
and he
fuck.
smelled good. He had
was
like
just
Aeropostale
smooth.
and Abercrombie and Fitch
Yeah,
cologne.
he's a little preppy boy, but like he was also a bad boy.
And eventually he turned into a trashy boy, as they
Yeah,
always do.
Yeah, I don't know how.
Well,
Maybe
because
his dad lost
he
his
was kind of a
job.
bad boy. That was part of what made him cool,
He was
sort
a
of like
bad
the
boy,
Jake
but how did he get
Bauermeister
all
effect.
that Abercrombie and Aeropostale. Stole it.
Maybe they had a good. Maybe his parents had a good job. I don't know. Goodwill. Too.
Maybe, but he
Plato's
was dressed.
Closet.
Oh, Timmy,
Who knows?
man, he was legendary though. I think. Yeah, we both have good top
Yeah,
9 so
yeah.
far. Wow.
Moving on to. Do you want to move on to number 8?
I'll do number 8. Arian McCorkle.
Oh my God.
For inclusiveness,
Oh my
because
God.
he was the only.
He was the
black kid
first
for
for a very long time.
First and only for a very, very long time. We only had one black kid at our school.
And just to make it even more diverse, he has a white mom.
Yeah, he does have a
Yeah.
white mom. Yeah, my mom used to talk to her at the PTA meetings.
Arian McCorkle, I remember he would get on the bus in elementary school and he always smelled like baby powder.
Why?
Well, I don't want to be racist, but it is stereotypical that
put baby
they
powder on it
yeah,
'cause their
just because
skin
they're more
gets dry?
yeah. you know, whatever, what have you. But he always, I just remember, because he would sit by me sometimes on the bus, and way early in elementary school. And he always smelled like baby powder. Maybe he was wearing diapers still. I'm not spreading that rumor.
Wasn't.
I'm not spreading that rumor. There is somebody at the school who, if they don't get mentioned, I will spread that rumor at the end. So my number 8. Did you have anything else to say?
No,
No,
it was just
my number 8, Casey Hall. Casey Hall. Now,
That's a good choice.
Casey Hall. When I think of Casey Hall, I think of PDA. Because she was so afraid of PDA.
she was very wholesome.
Very wholesome. And the other thing that I wrote down is the bus incident. And I think I've told this story, probably not on the podcast, though, but it's a very iconic story. She got on the bus one day, and she sat down across from me, and she said, my aunt told me to start to not talk to boys because they only want one thing. And this is like, we're in like 2nd grade, and it's Casey Hall. So I laughed my ass off. Well, it was maybe 5th grade. You know, we were certainly in middle school. 5th, right. It was either 5th or 6th grade. So I'm laughing my ass off because I'm like, why? I mean, I guess it's nice that her aunt was preparing her for that men only want sex. But why were they telling Casey Hall that in 6th grade? I've always wondered it.
I don't know. Yeah, you're right. In 6th grade, like they're like worried about her.
Right. Maybe they're just overprotective. I mean, I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah,
But
they could be
Casey Hall,
parents who were.
she eventually, you know, lived down the road from us.
Yeah, and didn't she have a boyfriend at one point?
Yeah. Sort of almost a fiance. So, you know, wherever.
Wow.
I think of
I
Casey
remember
Hall.
Casey Hall had one hell of a fucking voice.
Yes.
One day in fucking algebra class in like 8th grade, or it was some class like that. Because I don't know why she was in my class. I really didn't feel like she belonged there. Because Brent Park used to get mad at her because he would explain something, and then after everything he explained, like he'd be like, "Okay, so this is a triangle." She'd be like, "What's a triangle? What's a triangle? Come on!" She would always say shit like that.
Come on. You're right.
She would do it all the time. Like,
You're
"Oh,
right.
come on!
Come on.
What's a triangle?" And they'd be like, "Casey, let me finish."
Oh my God.
He would get livid. So and then one day, she always felt uncomfortable in that class because she knew Brent didn't like him. And then one day, it was like a cheat day, or maybe it was like one of the last days he was playing music, and she just starts singing, "And I drove my kid and drove my something, dude," whatever.
That's
it is.
so funny.
And she killed it. I always thought fondly of her ever since.
Now, similarly, I remember Casey Hall was one of the most brave people I remember because she performed in the elementary school talent show.
Really?
I didn't have the balls to do it. My best friend, Austin Studebaker, wouldn't do a stand-up routine with me.
Oh, that would have been
So
cute,
we
though.
didn't do it. And Casey Hall got up there and sang Delta Dawn. And, you know, I think she was in concert choir in high school, too. So, yeah, she kept up with it. And she
Good
did
for
have
her.
a very
I'm
good
proud
voice.
Of you, Casey. If you, for whatever reason you're listening to this, I'm proud of you.
Right. If you're listening to this, I don't know who sent it to you, but they betrayed our trust.
Right.
Number 7. Now this is an obscure one. Did you do that? Yeah, you did number 8. Now this is obscure. See, this is why that video with Jonathan didn't work out, because I can't remember my own. I can't keep track of what we've already done. So of course, you know, of course it would have fallen apart, and it took a damn hour for us to go through the Pixar 22 damn movies. Number 7 may be controversial because of one thing that this person did, but I'm putting Kara Patouche at number 7.
Kara Patouche. What is it?
Yes.
Why is it controversial?
She was your bully. She stole your book? Something
that
like
wasn't
that.
a big deal.
Well, I know,
even in the slightest.
I know.
No,
I know.
I left my book somewhere. Like, it was like one of the 3rd day of classes, and I left it somewhere, and I just never saw it again. In the end, and I just used like one of the copies they have in the class every time. There's no
Right.
There was a bunch of them, and then I think maybe the books were even assigned to us or something. And then Kara Patouche just so happened to have mine.
Right.
And she told me at the end of the year, so it wasn't a big deal.
Were
I'm like,
you-
okay, that's fine.
Were you not also the person that she bullied and then they featured in the smoke signal?
If that happened to me, I didn't know about it until now.
Okay, well you
Are
would
you
have. I
serious?
think you would have remembered. But I thought that was you. But maybe it was Jordan Turner. Not that I'm confusing you with Jordan Turner. I'm just conflating two stories together, being
you
like
think so?
she stole your book
man,
and
I'm over
she-
here sitting here thinking Kara Patuch was talking shit about me.
No, now I'm remembering.
I
Oh my god!
Shut up.
That's why I put the fucking yearbook away. I'm like, I'll put that away.
See, that's a good idea.
Now, the reason I put I wrote funny, bully, rags to riches. Now, the thing that made Kara Patuch a good, well, not riches, but I'll explain. Now, part of the thing that made Kara Patuch funny was just her sort of Simon Cowell, as you know, very mean observational humor, which was just bullying. I mean, was just bullying, but it was so funny. And she just anytime I had a class with Kara Patuch or when Kara Patuch was in show choir and just. I loved being with Kara Patuch. I loved hanging out with Kara Patuch. She was very funny. I missed her when she well, I don't even know if she graduated, God's honest. I'm going to say she graduated.
I think she did. She was a year ahead of us.
Yeah, I'm going to say she graduated because I remember when she came back to rehearse for graduation. That's right. Her senior year, she kind of disappeared on show choir, and I missed her a lot because I was like, well, that's the last time we're ever going to like spend together. You know, I'm not ever going to think that we're going to be friends outside of high school. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm like, this is it. And she just like kind of disappeared. And then on the last day of school when the seniors were rehearsing for graduation, she comes in to visit show choir and causes a commotion, you know, as they would, you know, when the old people would come back. But the one thing though that I will cringe about is that video on the channel called Kara Patuch that Kara Patuch requested that I make.
What is it? I remember I know the video. I see the thumbnail in my head, but I don't remember the content.
She wouldn't leave me alone about it. She watched the video, she found my channel, and she wanted me to make a video about her, so I did. And it's just about Kara Patuch and why I liked being her friend. Now, it's cringe, but I won't ever watch it again, ever. But she's number 7 on the list.
I'm gonna make you watch it.
I forgot. Rags to riches. Now, there was a time when we thought she was deep on drugs and she lost a lot of weight. You remember all this?
Oh, yes, I do. After high school.
And she was like working at Steak and Shake, and it was kind of like iffy. Well, she moved out of state. She has a kid now. She's living her best life. So in that sense, rags to riches. You know, I feel like she's like. I'm happy for her. So rooting for her. She's number 7.
I never really spoke much to her. I always just thought she was very obnoxious. But
yeah,
I don't never really like. I remember she was friends with Shelby Glass.
Yeah,
I think at some point. Mm-hmm. And like during middle school, I had the biggest crush on Shelby Glass. I mean, I wrote about her every day in my journal.
Right, and which you can listen to as an earlier episode of this show.
Who knows which one? But
yeah,
if you listen to all,
yeah,
all right,
it's in the description.
My number 7. Now this is really bad out of order because this person is at best an honorable mention, and it was an oversight of me making the list. But Seth Tritle.
Oh my god. That's so. Oh my god, that's a deep cut.
That's a really deep cut.
That is a deep, deep cut.
When I first got to Northwestern in the 2nd grade, Seth Tritle rode my bus. And I was really fucking scared. Because I never rode the bus. I was always getting picked up from school. Like, picked up and took there. And it was a new school, my first day of 2nd grade. I'm so fucking shy. But Seth Tritle took a liking to me and, like, showed me where my class was. And he was in the same class as me. He was just my first friend. He was a really nice person to me.
Yeah.
And I never forgot it, even though, I mean, we were always just cool throughout school. Mm-hmm. We were always just like, hey, what's up, man? Just because he was my first friend in 2nd grade.
That's so honestly wholesome. You know, I don't know. I haven't kept up with Seth Tritle for sure. But, you know, I never really thought you could say anything bad about the guy.
No,
I'll give him that.
He was funny.
Yeah, he was a funny guy. Nice. Had 2 moms.
Yeah, he did have lesbian moms. Yep.
Number 6.
Number 6 for me is, this is on a technicality, Emily Martin.
Oh!
Because technically she was the valedictorian, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, she was the
best.
Yeah, the best. Yeah, but
right.
like not the best to me, but she was the best student.
She's pretty iconic, too. Like, I think about Emily Martin a lot, too.
I think about her way more than I probably should.
She
especially because I never spoke to her.
Yeah. she passed my mind when I was making this list, but I didn't ultimately go with her. But Emily Martin, yeah, she was always a really good student. What can you say?
She began as an honorable mention. Not much to say about her.
Number 6 for me also wasn't originally an honorable mention, even though I guess the relationship wouldn't be, well, in the grander scheme of like 80, 90 years, I hope it is. I hope it is.
Who would it be?
Jacob Rohr.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, Jacob Rohr was a year ahead of us, but we were in like every musical together. My first through like 8th musical that I was ever in was, starring alongside Jacob Rohr, who had, honestly, at least for Northwestern and maybe just in general, a God-given talent for singing. The young man was a good singer. I'll give him that. And we I don't know what happened, but we're not in contact anymore.
Really?
I think we're Facebook friends, maybe,
didn't
but
he get all religious and shit after?
Well,
high
he went to
school?
Bible college. Yeah, he went to school to be a pastor.
He was always religious?
Yeah, he was always religious.
Well, I guess maybe it's just following God's
Could be.
will now.
And his
sinful theater.
mom still follows me on Instagram and likes all my photos.
See, this is another person who I never really spoke with ever. I always just remembered him looking like Sasquatch. Ever since I saw him for the first time, I was like, who is that kid and why is he so fucking tall?
He is. And I remember so I forgot about this, but my relationship with Jacob Rohr actually goes back even earlier than that.
What?
Because when I went to Vacation Bible School with Austin Studebaker at Donaldsville Church, God,
school?
yeah.
Oh, God.
Jacob Rohr was there too. They went to that church as well. So I remember him from that. And then I remember the next time I saw him at that. And then I saw him when he hit puberty.
Oh, really?
And I was like, oh, hey, Jacob. And he's like, hey, Zach. And he had like the deepest, cool. I was like, oh my God. It was wild. Hey, it was crazy. I remember
an early bloomer.
He was truly like the biggest kid I had known at that point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that seems legendary.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess you're right. Number 6. He was my number 6.
So now we're on the number 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so number 5...
my Emily Martin was my number 6.
Number 5 for me, this is one that is a little controversial because of why they're on the list. Tori Stewart.
Tori Stewart.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah. Now, folks, I just want to lay this out here. We were both in middle school, and I guess in freshman year of high school. Okay, we were both the same age.
Early teenagers.
We're teenagers. I know what I'm saying is creepy, and I know what I'm about to say is also, what do you want to say, objectifying to women.
But you were 14.
But I was 14.
On this one.
Now, she wore the shortest fucking shorts in gym class, dude. And I think when I think back to like who was the hottest girl in our class, it's either Tori Stewart or Maddie Fisher, right? And so I think it was Tori Stewart. Besides the eyebrows, I think by far she...
I was never that into Tori Stewart, to be perfectly honest with you, because she was just like... I guess she was like the traditional sense of beauty, but I never really found her that attractive. Like,
I think I prefer brunettes. Because, I mean, Tori is... Or not... but Maddie is blonde. And, those are the two...
Yeah, I mean, they were the two most popular girls in this whole school.
I would relieve myself specifically in the weight room bathroom
at
school.
In the middle school?
Gym. In high school, yeah. In the high school when we would go to the weight room.
in the weight room bathroom?
Yeah, isn't that kind of iconic? Isn't that
wow.
I really would love at some point to like put together a list of every room that I did in that building because it's a lot.
Northwestern, really?
Yeah, unfortunately. But listen, again, it was the libido. What can you do when you're going through that? You just have to jerk.
I never did that then.
Oh, I did so many. I could probably list them all right here. The bathroom outside of Mr. Kramer's classroom, the one that like small bathroom right across from Mr. Peter Kramer's room. Mrs. Perk's office, the light room in the choir room, the piano room in the choir room, both dressing rooms in the choir room.
How were you sure that nobody would walk in on you?
Wasn't.
Oh.
Wasn't.
Damn.
Anyway.
What would you have done if you got caught?
well, I guess been expelled and put on a list.
Damn.
But in the weight room bathroom, of course. But I mean, I know she wasn't doing it on purpose, guys. That's the point of objectifying women. But her underwear were always being shown, flashed in her legs.
Oh,
and
I
it
know
was
you loved that
it was
all
too
throughout
much.
school.
Yeah,
That's like drove you crazy.
it drove me wild. Now I know it's wrong, but she's number 5.
You really covered your ass there. Number 5 for me. I think it's another deep cut. Mark Shipman.
Okay, that's interesting.
He was the first con artist I've ever met in my life.
God.
I had never met a con artist before.
That's so funny.
This kid used to every single day. He'd be like, "Hey, I forgot my lunch money. Can I have a couple dollars for lunch?" And people would just give him money. I gave him money before. I'm just like, "Okay, I'm sorry, dude." He's a small little munchkin kid, and then eventually. It got back to his dad or something, right? It got back to his dad, and his dad came in and paid back everybody who had given Mark Shipman money.
Oh my God.
That's a cool story for Mark.
That is. Well, and it's just a cool story. That's like a lot of what these people are. They're just cool stories, you know?
Really, yeah.
But when I think, I almost put Mark Shipman on my list too. But Mark Shipman, iconic for always wearing that bow tie and vest for his parents would always dress him up very nicely. Latricia doesn't like you very much today.
I'm just clumsy.
But yeah, I didn't include Mark Shipman on my list because I hated Mark Shipman.
A lot of people did. I mean, he was on a lot of people's shit lists, and I think he transferred in like 6th or 7th grade.
Yeah, he was always moving. He had a military dad.
Oh, is that what it was?
He was always moving around, so he didn't. Yeah, and he's like still transient. He's still always moving around, and
is he?
Yeah,
You know
yeah, remember
him?
we found him on Facebook.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So you're number 4.
It's not going to be as exciting because my number 4 is Casey Hall.
Oh, okay.
She made it to number 4 on my list, but we've already spoken about her.
Well, what about her made her to get to number 4 for you?
I don't know, my notes here. Everything we said, she's very wholesome. She has a killer voice. And I always remember thinking it was really sweet. Because she's just a sweet little girl. Mm-hmm. And she just loved horses. Yeah. And I just think about it, I'm just like, oh, that's so cute. Because she'd always come in with like horse shirts and like horse backpacks. And the teachers would get her horse things who liked her. She would get so fucking happy. Thinking back on it really warms my fucking heart. But I have to say, I did just realize that Casey Hall, my list is all off, and I only had 8, I guess, because Casey Hall is my 3rd, too.
Oh, well, one thing I'll say about Casey Hall, since she's also another part on your list.
Because I skipped one, but
okay.
She's not whatever.
Casey Hall, one thing I'll say about her that you just reminded me of is that she loves animals, and she would always message me on Facebook and ask specifically how my animals were doing. By name, and I thought that was so sweet. She was very nice about that.
She's a very sweet girl.
My number 4, John Looney.
John
Looney. Now I put John Looney at number 4 because all throughout high school, now I know it's cringe, but he was iconic for t-shirts, graphic tees, and it was just if he's listening, and John Looney, I think, is just a genuinely funny, nice guy.
Yeah,
he was twisted, got suspended for saying something about cutting up that one teacher, Mrs. Steele. Yeah, got ISS for that.
I remember that.
John Looney, I really liked coming in every day and looking at your shirts. It was,
John Looney did
something.
A wholesome deed back in the day. He's a fan of metal music, and I am too. And back in 8th grade, this is when, He's like, you want a Slipknot CD? I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I can burn CDs at home. And sometime in this middle school era where it's if you knew someone with a CD burner who could do that, you'd be like, what?
You're right.
And I told him, yeah, and then he brought me in fucking 10 albums or some shit like that. And I actually listened to him and I really liked him. He introduced me to probably a lot of what my music taste turned into.
Well, that's incredible.
Wow, I never would have thought about that. Thank you, John Looney.
So now so what happened with your list? Do you have? Do I need to read my number 3?
I do have a number 3. It's because I skipped them way back.
Oh, okay.
And so they're not deserving of number 3, but they do have a really distinct memory in my mind that got them to the list in the first place. Preston Hatmaker.
Oh my god. Okay.
This kid was bad. He was bad to the bone. He was just like bad. Like I don't know how to explain how bad he was. He just never ruled. And I remember in third grade, this isn't the memory, but in third grade, he was really poor. And I would come home and he didn't have pencils or utensils or notebooks or anything ever. And I went home and told my mom, like, I feel so bad for this kid. Like, he doesn't have anything. And my mom went out and got me extras of everything and said, just, hey, like, I have extras, and just give it to him.
That's so
So my
nice.
mom had me do, like, that wholesome deed. And he'd be like, thank you. And so every now and again, we were cool in those days.
Yeah.
And actually, in, like, third grade, I was friends with Tyler Denson, who would go on. They were best friends, and I broke up the friendship.
Oh.
Because I was friends with Tyler Denson at that point. But whatever. The iconic memory I have is do you remember the vice principal of the middle school?
Which one?
The last one we had?
Mr. Gerbrick?
Mr. Gerbrick.
Yeah.
One day in lunch, I'm at the right place, right time. I'm coming out of lunch early or something, and Mr. Gerbrick is pulling Preston Hatmaker out of the lunch. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And Preston is going fucking berserk. He's like, get off of me! Get the fuck off of me! And I'm like, he said, fuck.
Oh my god.
I'm like, oh my god. And then I watch Preston Hatmaker turn around and go, smack Mr. Gerbrick right in the fucking face. I swear to fucking God.
Oh
And he's
my
like,
God.
come with me.
Oh my
and all these people,
God.
all these teachers ran in. They're like, they like got him off of me because he's still trying to go.
Oh my god.
He fucking beat up Mr. Gerbrick. I would never forget it.
That's a pretty number 3 spot.
I guess it would be, yeah.
That's a pretty number 3 spot. Not spoiler alert, but plug in another project I'm working on. Tune into YouTube to hear about a whole discussion soon about breaking down teachers' salaries, including Mr. Matt Gerbrick, including how he was able to afford that Harley.
Ooh.
So my number 3 is Trevor Skaggs.
Wow.
Trevor Skaggs. He made it to the list. Trevor Skaggs is just another iconic person that we went to school with. I honestly don't think you could go to Northwestern during that time period and not know who Trevor Skaggs is.
I have to confess this. He's my number one.
Oh, I stole your number one. But it's happened.
I mean, he's worthy. He's your top 3. He's my number one. This kid was fucking legendary.
Absolutely iconic. Running through the halls, screaming about his favorite teams.
I think they should change the mascot of the school to Trevor Skaggs.
I agree,
That's
honestly.
how much I associate. Like, he's one of the first associations, for whatever reason, I make with, like, the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school.
Yeah.
Mostly
He was
middle school.
iconic. He was simply iconic. Trevor would run through the hall, go Steelers!
He would switch between loving the Steelers and the Bengals all the fucking time. And the teachers would be like, what do you like today, Trevor? Bengals!
They'd be like,
I hate the Steelers!
Right. And if it was the weekend, he'd run to the school every day. It didn't
Every
matter
single
if it
day.
was the school.
School's out! He'd be so fucking excited.
Yeah! Oh, I
Oh
love
my
Trevor
gosh,
Skaggs.
it's so
and then in
wholesome.
high school, the heart issues, and he wasn't there that day that we had this class photo, and they photoshopped him in. That's fucking
They had a kid hold a
iconic.
picture of him.
Oh, and it
in
was
the
that
picture.
fucking pipsqueak, Kyle, that went on to
that
play.
Kyle
you remember-
Pipsqueak!
Yeah! That went on
I
to
forgot about that
I
kid.
hated that kid. And he's in our fucking photo, kinda as a fucking body double that they then photoshopped into Trevor Skaggs, who had open heart surgery. And he's doing all right. Sometimes he'll live stream when he's farming on Facebook Live,
It's
and I'll
so
sit there
wholesome.
and watch with him at 6 a.m.
It's really
It's nice.
awesome. I remember, and the first time I ever saw Trevor, it was obviously the first lunch I had at Northwestern Elementary School in second grade, but he was so small back then that he could not even pull himself up onto the school, like the seats at lunch.
Oh.
He had, I remember seeing him, I'm like, is that a baby? I didn't know. I was like, what is that? And there was somebody who would go like, and just lift him up and plop him down
That's
on the
so
sink.
cute.
And then they had to like pick him up and put him back.
He was such a small young man. I love that young man.
5 foot maybe, probably less. 4.5 maybe.
The other thing I wrote screaming And then I wrote naked Jim because in middle school, in
He would
gym
always
class,
get butt-ass naked.
He would get
changing
butt-ass naked.
I mean, I would not give him the top spot for that. It always made me really uncomfortable.
It was awkward as hell, and
when
Mr. Ports would come in and watch him.
Watch him.
And at one point, originally, we had in the middle school locker room. This is weird to me. Okay, this is like a little bit of a tangent. The middle school boys' locker room, we had a bathroom. You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And we would go in there, and that's where Trevor would eventually start changing, because he would go in the stall after people started making fun of him for getting completely naked. Right. He would go try to change in there if somebody wasn't using it. And there was also there was 2 rows of lockers, and then there was the shower, but there was a drinking fountain and a restroom too.
Yeah.
Well, after a while, they just sealed that door to the restroom off, because we would change in there for the musicals. That was where our dressing rooms, and there was no restroom over there anymore, and people didn't even know it existed. And I'm like, it's behind this door. I'm like, there's a bathroom behind this door, and they didn't know it even existed. We would piss in the shower drain. Because, I would go over to the girls' dressing room because they liked me and because I identified as gay at the time, and they would just let me in, and I'd go in there and pee. Nice. I never saw anybody. I would be, I literally never saw anybody, but they would trust me, so I'd go over there and use the real bathroom. But if you couldn't get over there in time, you had to piss down the drain, and it smelled like fucking piss in there because all the other guys would just piss in the fucking shower drains. Disgusting. Ew. It was disgusting. I don't understand, it probably just didn't work anymore, the plumbing or whatever, but it's just fucking weird that they sealed the door off. Oh, it creeps me out. Anyway.
They have a kid in there.
Oh my god. So who is your number 3? Did you do number 3? Okay.
3.
See, God. So my number 2 is Jeremy Locks.
Really?
Yeah. I put Jeremy Locks at number 2 because he is just a successful young man who followed his dream of being a photographer / videographer, really, and he's doing it, and he's made a career out of it. It's not just like a fucking hobby. He's truly someone to look up to, honestly. He's a bit too religious for me. That's that's a huge not that it's a minus, but it's a minus. But he's a very inspiring young man. He right out of high school went to college, studied, became a photographer, worked at Wittenberg as a photographer, now owns his own business that has employees. It's just insane, dude. I'm so proud of him. He lives in Columbus. He's married. Good for him.
Wow, he lives here?
Yeah, he lives in Columbus.
I could just run
probably
into him
in a nicer part of Columbus. Not that we live in bad part, but he makes some decent money on his website. Listen, on his website, lockscreative.com or something like that. I'll give him a plug. He has a thing where you can submit your requests, to be like, hey, could you do this, and get a quote. And it says what's your expected budget? And the minimum budget is $1,000.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So the young man is doing.
Are you?
And he's
serious?
worth it. The content. He's getting ready to publish another book. I bought his first book for you for Christmas.
I know. I still have it.
Yeah, and he's getting ready to publish another one.
Oh my God,
I know,
Jeremy!
I know. I'm very proud of the young man from afar. And you know what else I'll say? Jeremy Locks.
I could cry right now. That's
we
really
used
sweet.
to be friends at one point. Not that we're not friends now, but we used to be we would be friends. When I was in that Cody Lambert big group of friends. But Jeremy Locks never stopped being my friend when I came out of the closet like all the other ones did. He never actively hung out with me or went out of his way to talk to me, but whereas everybody else pretended I didn't exist, Jeremy Locks would still look me in the eye. So I really appreciated
did that?
that.
They pretended like you didn't exist?
Yeah. For the most part, yeah.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. So, Jeremy Locks, number 2, and the reason it literally just says next to it, success. Because he's
very successful.
Very successul.
I'm very proud of him.
And not in a traditional sense too. He's not a lawyer, He did it in a creative pursuit. So it's very inspirational to me too, because I would also like to have a creative career.
Right. Good number 2 pick.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is number 1?
It's honestly more. It's really obscure, but I think it'll make sense when I say it. But it's really obscure. You don't have anybody else on your list?
I have number 2.
Oh, okay. Give us your number 2.
Jacob Hahn.
Oh, okay.
Jacob Hahn, the first day of school,
Oh my God!
Beat the shit out of George Sutton out of nowhere. I mean, George Sutton was just such an unassuming fucking kid in our school. He was nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, not in a rude way, but he was not. It
wasn't like he was the most popular kid in school.
He'd be like me beating up me.
Right.
You know, like everybody knew I was there, but nobody really talked to me.
Right.
And he beat the shit out of him and just caused a major fucking reputation for himself. But the kid, he was like a fucking Goodwill Hunting. The kid was a fucking genius.
Yeah, I completely agree.
He was way smarter than I was on every level. He was so fucking smart. And, but he would always give inspirational speeches.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just a weird fucking guy because he was bad as fuck. And of course, the speech where he's like, he got up in front of the whole class and he went, you know what? When I first came to the school, I thought y'all were a bunch of fucking redneck losers or something to this degree. He's like, but y'all are.
Oh my God.
Y'all are all right.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I love Jacob Hahn too. In the similar way, he scared me way too much to make my list. He respected me and like he thought I was funny. You know what I mean? Like he was nice and like I wasn't afraid to be around him because I knew of the Goodwill Hunting sort of thing. You know what I mean? But he was very intimidating and I was very afraid of him. You know, it was very. It's like being around it's like being around a tiger. You know what I mean? You're like you can play with them, but any second they could bite your fucking head off.
You're right.
It was a wild card. It was scary. And I remembered, so as soon as you said Jacob Hahn, I thought of Mrs. Leedy because that was her first year as our principal as well.
Oh, she had to make an example out of him.
And she gave us what I look back on and I think might have been the best speech we heard as a class. Because she was talking...
After he beat the shit out of George Sutton.
Right. She gives us this whole speech about how we're a class and like we shouldn't have let some new kid come in here and beat up somebody we went to school with since kindergarten. I'm crying.
I think she's what inspired this, to be honest, because when we remembered that years ago and she said they're like, we grew up with you grew up with George.
Right.
And I remember getting emotional then. I'm like, we did.
She's like, you might not be friends with George. You might not even like George, but you grew up with George. And I'm like, oh my God. It was so somber.
I want to reach out to Mrs. Leedy and tell her that was the most inspirational speech I've ever seen given, and I watched Michelle Obama speak.
Right? It was really honestly good. It was a really good speech, and I remember that iconically. And then when you said he stood up and gave speeches, first thing that popped into my head was Jacob Hahn standing up. We had a big old speech when they were sending us home early because of a snowstorm. And Mrs. Leedy was like, we need to be safe. We're going to do this safely. Here's drivers are going to go home. You know what I mean? The people that get picked up are going to go home at this time. Buses are going to start dismissing at this. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And Jacob Hahn stands up and he's like, y'all, you need to listen to this. Them bus drivers are risking their lives to get you home. So you need to sit down and listen to what they're saying.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. I literally thought, damn, if Jacob Hahn's telling me, I really should.
Right. Yeah.
So brave of him.
Yeah. He had no qualms about anything. He saw himself certainly as a leader, as an alpha.
Yes, he did. And he was.
And he really was. I don't know if he's doing well these days, but I wish him well. I wish him well. My number one, it's a very random one, I think. But I think you'll see the connection once I maybe explain it. Number one for me is Luke Burns.
That's so fucking weird, Zach, that you would say that.
I know. Now, obviously...
I wonder if it's for the same reason I thought you would include him. Because I thought you would for some reason.
That's weird. There's two reasons I wrote down. So the chances are you've probably guessed the reason. But when I think... Now, I gotta say, this list doesn't include any of our friends. Because obviously you're number one. And obviously, like, Bree is number two. Hannah's... they're all up there. All of our friends that we went to school with are obviously omitted from the list. So in no way was Luke Burns really my favorite person that we went to school with, I guess. But when I think about the lasting impact that somebody had on me, it came to me all of a sudden.
What?
Luke Burns was the first person that I remember that had a YouTube channel.
That's exactly why I thought you would do it.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I thought you
Yeah.
would do it. I thought he was the inspiration for you to do it.
Exactly. His video, he would do sort of like Fred parodies, you know,
Yeah.
where he would speed his
And
voice
everybody
up.
loved them.
And they went viral at our school.
Like
everybody
3,000
loved
views.
them. I mean, everybody loved his channel. Of course, I don't remember what the hell it was called, but it's defunct now. But yeah, and obviously that inspired me to create Austin Zach 00 with Austin Studebaker, and it's like a decade, 13 years later, and I'm still doing it. So clearly, it's had a last. His influence
absolutely
at
right
that,
about that.
and the thing is, it wasn't just like, oh, he inspired me, but he also like was very supportive of it when I started making videos.
Was he?
He would leave comments and like my videos and like.
Wow.
Exactly. He was a fan, or at least he said he was a fan of Gail's Killing Spree when that was on the channel, you know. It meant a lot because, you know, he was certainly, we were sort of friends, but he was still one level higher than that friend group that I was in at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like he would hang
you're-
out
you're-
with them, but
that's
he was
right,
still
you're
one
right.
level higher than them. And because he was also friends with Tori Stewart and Maddie Fisher,
Right,
and
he
that's
was
what
a
made him
popular kid.
one of the most popular kids in school.
Right, you guys were like kind of in tier 2, I think.
Yeah, right. I would say I was probably by the end, by
You were
tier 3.
one.
No.
You were tier 1 by high school.
In what realm?
I guess if we're saying tiers as in like, I just thought you were the most popular kid in high school. I didn't.
I
think
had
there
a
was
lot
any-
of friends.
I didn't
mean,
think there was any doubt about it. Everybody knew who you
well,
were. You were like the king
yeah,
of the
okay.
school.
I guess okay. Well,
I've
in
always thought
certain
that's
way,
weird that you
in
didn't
certain
think
way,
that.
well, no, in certain ways. But when I think of like who was the most popular people in school, I think of like Leanna Durbin and Maddie Fisher and Tori Stewart and.
I guess I think of them too, but
Yeah.
like who actually really knew them?
You're right.
They were just sort of like the kings and queens.
You're right.
You were like the prime minister.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that especially because it signifies that that President Porter did nothing, which I do.
No, yeah,
She was
President Porter let us down.
Right. Fuck President Porter. But the other reason that when I think of Luke Burns, the other thing that I always think of is the Simba story. And that is that when he was dating Maddie Fisher, they had sex on their period, and he did the, smearing of her period blood across her forehead. Now, I don't want to do that.
Did he do that?
That's a rumor, at least. It's certainly an iconic rumor at the school. And all I'm saying is the only I don't think the action is hot of smearing the period blood.
No.
But the fact that was like one of the first times I heard somebody in our class was having sex, it opened up a whole new world to me where I was like, oh my God, that's hot. I'm like, people around me are already having sex.
When
You know
was
what I mean?
this?
That was like, 8th, 9th, 10th
He had
grade.
sex with Tori Stewart back then?
Maddie Fisher, when he was
Maddie
dating Maddie
Fisher.
Fisher, yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm not even saying nothing wrong about period sex, but I'm just saying that was one of the hottest stories to me, just because the sheer fact
That it happened.
that it happened.
Right.
Exactly.
Luke Burns, everybody. Number
Right.
1. Jacob Pond, also number 1.
Trevor Skaggs was your number
Oh, yeah,
one.
yeah. Put him in a fight.
Trevor Skaggs versus who? Luke Burns. Oh, yeah. Well, by the time we graduated, Luke Burns was like really tall, really fit, like his older
Yeah, he's
brothers,
so
and I'm not trying to spread any rumors or start anything, but I heard he did cocaine too. Like he experimented with those sorts of drugs. Nothing wrong with it. I'm not judging him, but
I didn't see
I'm
that
just
video.
saying. Yeah, right. Anyway, well, there's our top 9. I did have one honorable mention because originally I
had 10,
came up
yeah.
with 10. So my honorable mention is Mallory Williams.
I was thinking about including her
Yeah.
because I am. You going with yours?
That was all. I just thought about her when
Oh.
when I sat down and I'm like, who's the top 10 people I went to school with? I kept coming back to Mallory Williams, and I'll just throw in another one, Brett Hensley.
Brett Hensley.
Not because I like them or anything, but I just remember them.
I introduced Mallory Williams to her husband, and she loves me for it.
Right.
I
That's it, yeah.
I really like. They every time I talk to them, they're like, "What? Hey, how are you doing? Thank you for doing that. Thank you for."
You changed our lives.
I did.
Right. That's truly,
Very
it was a match
casually.
made in heaven, somehow.
Well, I knew her. I knew Kyle Baker liked Mallory Williams, and I was just audacious enough to tell her.
Oh, I see. Well, hell,
And then-
sometimes that's what it takes.
And then years later, she like messaged him like, "Hey, do you actually like me?"
Oh my! And he's like, yeah.
And then he messaged me or something. Years later, he's just like, "Dude, thank you for doing that." Like she's actually messaging me, dude.
That's so funny. Yeah. Well,
There it is.
tune in next time for some more MOATAIF, and until then, stay moat.
Stay moat.
Death to every fucking Republican.